You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis, and I am Mighty Blue, or Steve Adams. I hiked the AT in 2014, and clearly having failed to learn how tough it was, I went again in 2019, and today we've got one of my friends from the 2019 hike. This is Lee Brackman, or General Lee, and I know that there will be quite a few of you out there who will remember this terrific young man. He was, and still is, such a positive guy, having packed quite a life already into his 24 years. I knew I wanted Lee on the show quite a while ago, but, well, he doesn't really do social media, so it wasn't easy to find him. Then, just a couple of weeks ago, he reached out to me through the contact page on our website, hikingradionetwork.com, and we struck up a conversation, and here he is today. It was great to catch up with this charismatic guy, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy hearing his exploits. And after General Lee, we have two of the women in our class of 2022. Joanne Birditt of Foxbait and Sarah Sunshine Landis will be telling us how their plans have both changed. Joanne will be on after General Lee, while Sarah, fresh home from South Korea, will follow Joanne. And please stick around until the end. I've had an awesome gift this week that I want to share with you. I'll tell you about it between our two class of 2022 chats. So let's hear from my buddy Lee Brackman, or General Lee. We've got another one of my AT thru-hiker class of 2019 this week, and as it turns out, he went on to hike the CDT. This is Lee Brackman, memorably known on the trail as General Lee. Hey, General Lee, how the heck are you?
It's good to see you, Mighty Blue. It's been a while, my friend.
It certainly is. It's quite amazing, isn't it? You know, it's become such an integral part of your life, even though, we were only there for 6 months, but it's something about it, isn't it?
It has. I was sitting at work the other day thinking about people that I've met along the way, and you popped into my mind, and, quick Google search, and I found your email and reached out to you, and here we are. So
Very cool. Very cool. Well, funny enough, you and I didn't actually meet up. I think it was somewhere around the Virginia Triple Crown. I know we were certainly up the Dragon's Tooth together, weren't we, with some other people? And there were some other places we saw each other at Devil's Backbone, I think, as well. But when did you actually start the trail? Because I started in February.
So I started March 18th and I finished August 8th.
Oh, wow. So you weren't hanging around then?
Yeah. I hiked my own hike as I encourage everyone else to do. But I kind of realized along the way that the, pushing myself to my physical limits was something that I enjoyed as well. So. Oh,
did you? You enjoyed the physicality of it, did you?
I did. I come from an athletic background, so I think, it was a way to continue that, get those endorphins going and challenge myself.
So you get the athletic background in. You didn't tell us any of that. What did you used to do then?
So I played just about everything growing up, but I played football in college. I was the kicker on the football team, so not the most athletic thing, but I played soccer and basketball and everything growing up, and I'm a bit of a golf enthusiast these days. So.
Nice, nothing wrong. You're way too young to be a golf enthusiast.
I don't know about that. It's the best way to spend 4 hours outside.
No question. No question. You're right there. Yeah. So what got you out there in the first place? I mean, you say you're physically healthy and so on, but I don't think you've done much hiking beforehand, had you?
No, so the extent of my hiking experience, my senior year of high school for spring break, myself and 3 other friends, I'm from Georgia, from Athens, Georgia.
Sure.
And so we went up and we hiked. We had intentions of doing the whole state of Georgia, in like 4 or 5 days. We had no clue what we were doing.
Yeah.
My friend, that one of them that came along with me, he used all his granddad's stuff from Vietnam and stuff. We had no clue what we were doing, So we ended up going in 5 days from Springer Mountain to Neal's Gap, which is mile 31.9.
Yeah.
And you know, it kind of opened my eyes, like, this is pretty cool. And I met one through hiker along the way who was like, yeah, I'm going all the way to Maine. I was like, what are you talking about? And talked to him for a little bit. And one of my brothers had a friend that did it, and as I was started to think about it a little bit, I reached out to him, and he gave me the basic rundown and everything. So I learned from him, and other than that, though, you know, I didn't do any researching on gear or listen to any podcasts or anything before. So it was a learning experience. I will say that.
But you know, but one thing about the trail, and we certainly learned this on the podcast, is you can approach the trail literally by the approach trail, and you can start hiking with whatever you got. And then if stuff doesn't work out or you make a mistake, you just don't do that stuff again, do you?
Absolutely.
You do something different. You do
Absolutely.
something. So how did you work out your gear, or did you literally just go with what you could find?
Yeah. So my backpack was from Walmart, and I got most of my gear at a Coleman outlet about a week and a half before I started. So
That's the spirit.
yeah, my mom kind of picked out my sleeping bag and my pad, and you know, and I think honestly, it sounds funny, but it's a good message to convey. It's the will to do it more than the preparation to do it. And, you know, I set out and I was like, I'm going to do this thing. You know, I had a 60-pound pack, and, you know, I did it though, you know, with what I had, and I loved it.
To be fair, you're young. You were quite young. Were you at 20, 21 when you hiked the trail?
Yeah, I was 21.
Yeah, and you had this thing about you though that had this vast confidence, which was and personally I love that. I've always been called cocky in the past and arrogant, which is fine by me. But it's a confidence that really shows on the trail. You know, you had a group of people around you, and you just seemed to be just having a blast the whole time. You gave us such a positive vibe. Did you enjoy that part of it? That part of you could come out?
Oh, it was so much fun. So I guess that's kind of two parts. I guess the confidence thing was I doubted myself the first couple days, and I was like, do I really want to do this? Is this really how I want to spend 4 or 5 months? And I kind of needed to speak it into existence that I was going to be able to do it. And so, you know, the confidence, it wasn't, you know, false confidence, but, you know, hearing myself say, like, I got this, I'm never going to quit, that definitely helped me along the way, you know?
Well, funny enough, because when we spoke the other day, which did surprise me, you said you really were kind of concerned those first few days. Was it the first night you nearly quit?
Yeah, the first night I called my mom and dad, and I was like, I do not want to do this. You know, like, this is not fun. This is not what I thought it was going to be like. And, you know, they were like, just give it another couple days and just see how it goes. And I ended up hiking with some section hikers for a few days and kind of, you know, got settled in a little bit and started to really just enjoy the days, enjoy the small things. And I think that calmed me down a lot, and started having smaller goals.
You definitely have to get into the rhythm of the hike. It's something that most of us have talked about it at some stage or other. And it's almost like you don't know it's happening to you, isn't it? Then suddenly you wake up and your day has become formatted, isn't it? In a certain way that works for you. Did you find that happen to you?
Absolutely. I definitely was in shock the first few days because it's a completely different way of life. But once I kind of started to figure out, you know, I wake up at this time, I make my breakfast, I walk, take a break, walk, lunch, walk, break, walk, dinner, sleep.
Eat relentlessly. Eat as much as you like.
Relentlessly. That is right. That is right. I had quite the appetite. It was a topic of discussion many of times.
That's hilarious. But then you had, and I'm not sure when you met him, but you told me that you met somebody we both knew, a guy called Free. Tell us how he changed your perspective, because you felt you needed a perspective shift, didn't you?
Absolutely. So I started a little early, so there weren't that many people out there. You know, I had seen some section hikers, a few younger people. And I think it was called Cartersville Gap or something, maybe around mile 83 or so. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I walk up and see this guy, his shirt's off, you know, he's smoking a cigarette. Yes. And, you know, he's got a very distinct look about him, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And I said, what's your name? And he said, I'm Free, brother. What about you? And I was like, that's awesome, you know? And We talked for like a few minutes, and he told me he has had, lots of hiking experience. I didn't even know what the PCT was. He told me he'd done that 3 times, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And he is such a quality example of hiker trash, but in the best way possible, And I say that as a term of affection. And so just
Absolutely.
like I stayed with him a couple nights, and we hiked around each other, and he's not normal, and not many people out there are normal. And I guess what is normal. But I just kind of learned from him, and laughed with him and cried with him, and it was
Mm.
just a special experience that I'll have
Do you
forever.
think the trail changed some of your character in some ways? Did it change some aspects of your life? I mean, I
I
know
think so.
it changes everybody who does it, but did it change certain aspects of your life and you suddenly thought, oh gosh, I can do something here that I didn't know I could do?
I think so, in several ways. One is the mentality that I can do absolutely anything I put my mind to. And I really do believe that. And, several other things, I'd say it helps me with goal setting and not getting too far ahead of myself. Once I started thinking, I'm in Tennessee, and I started thinking about Katahdin, then, I'd be like, man, that's a long way to go. But when you set small goals for yourself, like seemingly impossible things become possible, and that's something you can definitely take into your everyday life. And
Yeah,
something else that I think you wouldn't necessarily think about is interacting with people in small groups. I think I became a much better listener, and a much better just just being able to operate in groups of 4 or 5. I feel like I really improved at that, being able to listen to other people and learn from them without necessarily speaking, and that was something that I learned that I wasn't expecting to at all.
well, you're the first person I think I've ever heard say that. And as soon, when you were saying it, I think, yeah, that's right. That's what you do. You get into these little groups, and it's something you're not used to. And a lot of it centers around when you eat at night and at the picnic tables. And you do shift up for each other to make a bit of space for each other. And you got a bit some of your stuff out. You pull that over and let somebody else come in. And it's a very collaborative process, almost eating, isn't it? Because there's a limited amount of space and there's tons of stuff all over the table. But there always works out to be enough room in the end, doesn't there?
Absolutely, and another thing with that is when you're in those groups, it's a very diverse group of people in several ways, but I think age is one of those things.
Definitely.
There's the young people, there's the people that quit their job to do it, and there's the people that retired from their job to do it.
Sure.
And everyone's together, and no one you don't know if that person's a lawyer or a doctor or homeless or anything in between. So
Sure.
it's a very diverse group, and just talking in small groups, it's a very I think it's a great skill to have in life.
Absolutely. So we hiked around each other probably only for about 3 or 4 days, 5 days, something like that, maybe a bit longer than that,
Hmm.
because I was much slower than you, obviously, and you went past. And I remember you were with Paulie, who I know you went on the CDT with. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you meet him on the trail?
I did. I love that guy so much. He was just sitting on a rock outside the Blackstone ATC Center,
All
and
right.
the rest is history. I'll just say that we just had an instant connection, and he holds a very dear place in my heart. We've probably hiked about 3,500 miles together total. Additionally, another friend, Cake, that I met on the AT. And I'm starting by myself. I hiked with very many different groups along the way.
Sure.
And man, the relationships you make, it's amazing to see how they spill out into the real world. I've gone and visited people. I've gone and visited people's family. I stayed with Paulie and his parents while we were on trail for three
Nice.
nights.
Nice. Yeah. And I bet they welcomed you because you meant a lot to their son, and I'm sure the roles could be reversed and it would be just as good.
Absolutely. His dad made us Monte Cristos. He told me about this sandwich called a Monte Cristo. And so for about 2 or 3 weeks before we got there, that's all we talked about. We were like, dude, my dad is gonna make us Monte Cristos. And so that was adding fuel to the fire for
Something
sure.
to look out for. So,
Absolutely.
and as I say, you went ahead of me and you met other people on the way and you eventually summited. But before you summited, you told me the other day, which I didn't know, you actually got Noro in the 100-mile wilderness. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That must have been a pretty tough time. Tell us about how that went down.
Yeah.
Or actually came up, in fact.
Yeah. Cheers. Yeah. What an interesting end to the journey. Everything's going great. And right when we get around Shaw's, I was hiking with a big group at the time. I had left Paulie and Cake behind, and I was with Sheepdog and Ziploc and Chance and Easy, Deadpool and Boomer. Great people. And I think about 3 or 4 of us ended up getting it at different times, and very difficult. Very difficult. And
did it take you off trail? Did it take you off trail for
yes. So it happened the day before Shaw's. So I was the worst that day and one day at Shaw's, and then I was still, just felt weak the entire 100
So
miles.
you took Noro to Shaw's.
I took Noro to Shaw's, and they said I wasn't the first one. So that
good to know.
So they actually had like a quarantine room for all the sick people, and they had like this is pre-COVID, so they were cutting edge in the quarantine.
But by then, I know you enjoy the physicality, but your body's starting to break down a little bit by then, isn't it? Everybody's body in some ways does. But did it really deplete you, your energy?
I was I was exhausted before that, and then I had that on top of the chafing and the pimples and the smell in my feet, and I was I was just tired. I was just so tired, and oh man, what a feeling seeing that sign. Oh God, it still makes me smile. We summited in a hailstorm, and some people would say like that was a bad ending, but we all left together in the morning, and I got up there first. I was energized. I practically ran up Katahdin, and I just sat on that mountain in a hailstorm by myself for like 45 minutes, and really it was like, wow, like I'm just sitting up here getting dumped on. It's so cold and I'm okay with it. And that's like, that was my special way to end the trail.
And when you touched the sign, what was your thought? Was it, you were glad it's over? Were you sad it's over? Did you feel this is something I'm just never, well, you obviously think you're never going to forget it. Were there any moments, because I know a lot of people have come on the show and said they felt a bit when they got there. What was it like?
A lot of, a big deep breath was the first thing. And
glad I'm alive.
Got some chills and just like, man, what a journey, and I just kind of took some time to, I was wrapped up in my tent fly under a rock because it was, but I was like, wow, what a trip, what a journey. And I can't believe I did this. And I was really proud of myself. I was like, man, I almost quit on the first night.
Yes. Well done.
And here I am. And
then you go down, which is, I think it's kind of a sad part of it, the way you just suddenly all disperse. Mm-hmm. And it almost feels like people go away from you before you tell them what they mean to you or what, what it's like. So did you have some of that? You just, because the reason I asked that, because I know that 2 days after you summited, you did something else, didn't you?
Yeah, so I summited August 8th, and Paris, some of his friends got a cabin, and so drove up from Philadelphia and got a cabin. So my whole little family that I finished with, we went to the cabin for the night of the 8th and the night of the 9th, and then I flew back to Athens the 10th, and I started orientation for my master's program that night.
Wow.
I went in, I didn't shave the entire time. I went in full hiker beard and everything.
Well, I was going to ask about that. What did your fellow students make of you? Because you were still in hiker trash mode, no doubt.
I was definitely still in hiker trash mode. And, during orientation, I'm like, what in the world did I do? I'm just looking out the windows at the trees, like, like, what is it? I'm listening to someone ramble about who knows what. And all I can think about is, my friends and the trail and like, oh my gosh, I wonder if they finished. I wonder how everybody's doing. And it was definitely very tough for a while, but I think it was good for me in the long run to have something to do.
Well, I was going to wonder that, but I was wondering whether it was a bit too early for you, or was it good for you to get your mind onto something else and get off the trail? Because a master's is no messing about, is it?
Yeah, I would not recommend it. I would definitely take a week or two to be able to, just continue to reflect and enjoy it. 2 days or 2.5 days, whatever it was. I was very shocked. Like I was just, and I don't know. It was funny. I actually made a friend on the first day that we'll talk about later because I told him he had a nice Osprey briefcase because Osprey was fresh on my mind, which is funny. But
you sweet talking bastard, you.
I've been called worse. So
that's funny. And I've said this to other people who went in 2019, and nobody who's gone in 2020 or 2021's regretted their hikes. But weren't we lucky that 2019 was our year?
I thought it was a fantastic year. I thought we were really lucky with weather. Not much rain. I can count on, maybe like 8 bad rains, or maybe even less than that. Like that's nothing. And I just loved the community that year, and it wasn't during a pandemic, so that's another positive.
That was the biggest positive of all, I think. So if there was, because I'm going to come on CDT in a minute. So what was your big takeaway from the AT?
Man,
so I'm going to ask you I'm also going to ask you what your takeaway from the CDT is, but later in a minute. So tell me about what was your takeaway when you started your masters, and you look back on what you've done, because I think it often takes us some months to really put into perspective what's happened.
It's funny. I think my biggest takeaway was the people, more than the trail or the views or the trees or the ferns. As much as I love those things, the AT, I remember, 120 trail names of the coolest people I've ever met in my life, and I think that is what I took away. Those relationships that I still have to this day.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned before, you went on the CDT. Why did you choose that one? Because a lot of people go from the AT to the PCT, or was this something to fit in with your college? And how were you with college? And I'm not sure how that worked out.
So I started my master's program in August, and I finished the following December. So I did it a year and a half. So I graduated December 2020.
Right.
And, about 2 months in, I'm already thinking about my next trip. I'm texting Polly and Cake and like, yeah, let's go hiking again. And Polly is like, we should do the CDT, and I didn't even know what the CDT was. And so I looked.
There's still no research then.
Still no research, and I looked, and I was like, well, it sounds pretty cool, and definitely a lot more planning for this one. I bought some nice gear, not the nicest, and now that I finished the CDT, I just did another purchasing session, and it's amazing. Oh, it's the happiest I've ever been. But
you're going to tell us that. What have you just bought?
So I have a ULA CDT for my pack. I have a NeoAir, but the half one, which is funny because I'm 6'6".
Yeah, you're a big guy, yeah.
But I can do it, and I have a Z-Pack sleeping bag. And so I'm pretty light these days compared to my Coleman and Walmart beginnings.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. So you said it's different planning. So what was the logistics like for this compared to the AT?
So I think a good rule of thumb is it's just hiking. It's the same exact thing, but it's big. Everything's bigger. The miles, the resupplies, the hitches. So you fly into Lordsburg, New Mexico, and it's like a 2-hour drive to the Mexican border.
Wow.
And so just some things, I think there's more extreme temperatures. So I had never been to a desert in my life. And you spend a good 30 days in the desert.
Wow, as much as that. Wow.
Which was an amazing experience. Don't go without an umbrella. That's all I'm saying. The umbrella was a lifesaver for me. So, the diversity of the landscape was spectacular. You go from desert to snow-capped mountains to, forest and plains and more desert and glaciers. But In terms of preparation, the desert and the snow would be the two big things I would say. So I had never done any snow hiking.
Right.
And I think me, Cake, and Polly were like 3 of 5 people who went into the San Juans with no ice axe, which I would also not recommend that. But we made it through just fine. And also the hitches I had some long hitches, some 40 milers and things like that. I had to, it's funny. I woke up one morning and we were going to do a 26, and it was on a 166-mile stretch from Cuba to Chama. You can hitch into Chama twice, but we want to do it in one go. So it was 166 miles. We're going to do it in 6 nights. Or maybe that one was 148 miles, sorry. And so my backpack ripped halfway through the day. I had an Osprey Levity. And so we were going to camp at a road that night anyways. So I book it the whole day and get there about 3 p.m. And I hitched 2.5 hours to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Went to REI, got a new backpack, and hitched back right as the sun was going down. So it was like the craziest day ever. But yeah, the longest hitch I've ever done for sure.
But did you have a community? Because on the AT, people did pick you up all the time, didn't they? Without any problem. Was it just as easy on the CDT? Because they don't really know it's a trail if they live 40 or 50 miles away, do they?
Absolutely. It's definitely a lot lesser known. Most of the people that picked me up didn't know. There's a few really trail-friendly towns where there are trail angels, but on that particular ride, neither one of them knew. I had a preacher take me in, and I had 2 young kind of hippies take me out. So it was
there's a diversity, right?
It was a diverse team.
So tell us about your blizzard above tree line as well. That must have been quite an interesting time.
Oh my gosh. So we refer to it as Thunder Blizzard,
right.
is what we refer to it as. So it's probably about 3 to 4 p.m. and I'm with Polly and Cake and Fried Green Tomato. And there's a few people, in front of us and behind us.
Sure.
And so it starts as a light snow, and then the clouds. Up there, the weather changes so quickly when you're at 10 and 11,000 feet. And so the sky gets real dark, and it's grumbling thunder, lightning striking, and then about 100 yards in front of us, we're on a ridge, lightning hits the ridge. And so it was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Were you scared?
I was scared, 100%. And at that time, it's snowing hard.
Right.
And so we're like, we got to get down off this ridge. So we glissade with no ice axe. So we're using our trekking poles. We glissade with micro spikes and trekking poles a long way.
Good skills.
A long way. Yeah. So me and Paul and Cake glissade down, and probably like 400 or 500 yards, I'd say, down this slope to a stream. And so we were looking for tree cover was what we were looking for.
Sure,
and it wasn't, so we run over and we hop over this stream and set up as quick as you can. And anybody that has a 2-piece tent knows that if you set up the inner, it gets absolutely soaked before you can put the rain fly over the top. So me and Cake are dealing with that. Paulie has a duplex, so he did a little better, but most of our stuff is soaked. I didn't have time to put my rain jacket on. So my, Arc'teryx or my R1 essentially is
Sure.
wet, which is an important part of my layering system.
Sure.
So just get out all my clothes, put them on, get in the sleeping bag, cook inside my tent to try and warm it up, and just make it through the night. It was cold. We did a Garmin check, and I think it was like 13 degrees, and we were wet. So that's,
once again, though, generally, it's one of those things you don't know whether you can cope with stuff, do you? Until you have to cope with it, and you coped with it. That's
absolutely.
What you do.
Absolutely. And I will say there's nothing like having some buddies around when that's going on, because worst comes to worst, we're all getting in the same tent and we're cuddling each other to stay warm,
Yeah.
And if I'm by myself, man, I don't know. I'd probably be pretty scared. But, Cake is such a good metric for measuring things. Like I'm really easygoing and I don't really get freaked out, and neither does Cake. But when Cake gets freaked out, I get freaked out because I know something's bad. And he was like, "This is not good. This is dangerous." And I was like, "Oh man, if he thinks it's bad, then it's definitely bad." So,
you got to the end. And how long did it take you to do that trip, by the way? So it's about 3,100 miles, isn't it? Or 3,000 miles?
Yeah, I did it in 5 months to the day.
Wow.
And I will say I probably did about 2,800. There are so many alternates on the CD. It's a pick your own. A lot of people do the Big Sky alternate in Montana. And me and Crazy Eyes and Mooch and Cake and Polly, we took the red line, which is like the official line.
Right.
So we did it pretty long, but we took the Gila River alternate in the south, so it ended up being about 2,800.
Right. So do you think you got the same satisfaction from the CDT as you got from the AT, or did you get something different from it?
So I think, the AT was the people, and I met some amazing people on the CDT who I'm also in contact with. My buddy Crazy Eyes and Mooch. I'm taking Crazy Eyes to the Southern Terminus next week of the AT to finish this Triple Crown.
Oh, cool.
But so many people there that I met, but I took away the physical, I think, more from this trail. I really pushed myself a few times, and I was in some dangerous spots a few times. I did a 52-mile day with my buddy Crazy Eyes. I
don't think I did a 52-mile week.
Yeah, it was something else. He talked me into it. We were in the Great Divide Basin of Wyoming, which is pretty much a desert in Wyoming, which I didn't know existed. I didn't know that existed. But he tells me there's this Japanese ritual, or it might have been another Asian country, but it's called a Misogi Day. And what you do is you do something so physically demanding that it makes such an impact on you that you can draw from it the rest of the year. And he gives me this pep talk the night before, and I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it," So
I got to tell you, from my experience of spending some little bit of time with you, I can imagine how much you would have said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, you got me. Let's go!" And I was fired up. And so we cowboy camped, woke up at 2 a.m., got started. We hiked 7 miles. We see these first people, Carrot and Pogo. And they're like, "What are you guys doing up so early?" And we're like, "We're doing a 50 to the road. Like, come on with us." And so they end up doing a 43 to make it to the road with us. Our idea was that we were going to hitch into town and get 50 chicken nuggets from McDonald's. That was the goal. And we ended up getting to the road at 11 p.m. It was a very long day. And didn't get a hitch into town. We had our headlamps on each other with our thumbs out. Hitching a dark is not easy, but we slept right by the road, and a nurse picked us up in the morning, and we ate a lot the next day. So.
I'm sure you did. So the two big hikes are behind you right now, and at the moment did you tell me you're at Vanderbilt doing research at the moment?
Yes, I am. I just moved to Nashville about a month ago, and I'm doing research on cancer up here. Trying to make a little money to save up for my next adventure.
Of course.
So it's good. It's good. I'm in a new place and don't really know many people, so just. Well,
you're not shy coming forward. No. You're going to meet some buddies, I can tell.
No, I've been making friends.
And you mentioned a guy you met on your first day, and I believe you're doing some work with him now. So tell me about Pure Light. And here's your shot for a bit of free advertising. So knock yourself out. Go for it.
All right, I will. So, I got sick in the 100-mile wilderness, and basically, I really could have used some electrolytes and clean water. And so I meet this guy on my first day of my master's program with an Osprey briefcase, and we become friends. And I've been to Haiti a few times doing mission work and doing work in cholera wards, and he does research on that. He's an MD now. And, we were just drinking beer one night talking, and eventually we come up with this idea that you can purify water and add electrolytes in one single tablet. So essentially, we came up with this idea. We made these prototypes in our kitchen. We did research. We got it patented ourselves. And it's called Pure Light. You can go to purelight.com. essentially
that's P-U-R-E-L-Y-T-E, isn't it?
It's PURLYTE.com. And
Okay,
so
I got that totally wrong. Say it again.
It's all right. PURLYTE.com.
Okay.
And so essentially it turns stream water into Pedialyte. And so it's good for hikers who are nervous about a water source and their sawyer isn't going to cut it. Originally designed for cholera wards and intended for the military to use as well. So that's my pipe dream, to make it big and hike forever. So
yeah, quite right too. Should be doing that. And so how's it? I mean, tell me, how's it doing? Are you trying to go to REI? Are you going to go to the military? What are you going to try to do?
So yeah, we're going to pursue multiple markets. So we're patented and we're working through. We signed with a contract manufacturer and we're almost done with our final stage of prototyping. So we're in the works with REI and pursuing some Air Force things and talking to some people in non-governmental organizations and trying to get our name out there and also finalize the product to make it safe and good and taste good and do what it's supposed to do. So I don't know. We'll be interested to see, if it works or if it doesn't. It's up to the people out there. So.
And you're still only 23 now, 22?
I'm 24. My birthday's this week, actually.
Oh, right. Great. Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you, brother.
I tell you, anybody who met you on the trail in 2019 would not have doubted for one moment, A, that you were smart, B, that you were determined, and C, that you were confident and you would do something with your life. So if you do something like this, you've done mission work in cholera and so on, well, good for you, man. Congratulations. You deserve everything you get. And it was so much fun meeting you, and it's been great fun to catch up with you now. I just wish you well with Purelight and, frankly, everything else you did the rest of your life, okay?
Absolutely. I appreciate it. It was great to see you. And hi, Mom, if you listen to this.
I'm sure she will. Okay, buddy. Right. Take it easy.
You too, my friend.
Do you know, there are people you meet in life who are so going to achieve. I mean, this young guy has not only done the AT and the CDT, he's got his master's degree, doing research into cancer at Vanderbilt, has done mission work in cholera wards. This guy doesn't stand still. He's a life force, and I think we were all impressed when we met him. He's just kept right on. He's only 24. Bloody marvellous. Now, we've had a bunch of lovely, generous people step up to support our shows once more. I got a letter, some kind words and a cheque to support the show from Ted Deal. And last week I referred to a donation from Cheryl Moore. Cheryl Monroe, who actually made the donation and said those kind words about the show, must have thought I'd lost it. So apologies for screwing up your name, Cheryl. And thanks for your gift. Also, recurring donors, Jan Haley, John Cratler, Anne Pickin, Betty McEnany, Sean Deadwiley, Emmanuel Bravo Ramos, Alan Troy and Jessica Diaz stepped up once more. Additionally, thanks for donations from Amy Van Harrent, Nancy Egan, Celadonio Esquivel, and Sharon James. Sharon wrote, "Sorry I don't do this more often." No worries, Sharon, you did this week. So thanks to all of you. It was financially a great week for the network, so I'm grateful as I am working all sorts of hours trying to get shows front-loaded for when I'm away in the UK. I leave on March the 10th, and by then, my show, Jester's show, Anna's Trail Dame show, and Courtney's Hiking Unfiltered will be ready to go and will keep you entertained while I'm away. Getting the funds this week was particularly welcome given the amount of editing work I'm doing right now. I love that you appreciate the value we're offering you. So cheers all. Now let's hear from Joanne Birditt. We spoke with Joanne a couple of months back and she was planning an early April start. Well, that's changed. Let's hear from her. And we're back on with Joanne Birditt, or Foxbait. Hey Joanne, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. And we were just obviously speaking before I started recording. And I said, you're starting sometime in April, one of the later starters. Turns out I'm wrong. So what's happened?
Well, things change quickly. Couple things. One, I was going to slowly drive across country and visit some friends and places on my way to North Carolina and leave my car there and at a friend's house and make my way to the trail in April. And the price of gas went up high. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and fly. So I
Oh,
booked
really? Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Well, and then I can put my car in storage and save some money on insurance and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
so I decided that, and then and I just still kind of was thinking, I'll just visit with Delise for 3 weeks or whatever. And then about 24 hours after I booked that flight, my oldest son and wife called me and said, Mom, you need to hike fast because you're going to be a grandma August 26th.
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah. It's very, very exciting since we really weren't ever anticipating being grandparents. So
Right.
it's very exciting. So I will hike fast. I don't have to hike real fast because my daughter-in-law's parents live right there where they're at. So
right.
Yeah. So I'm motivated to start earlier and hike quickly.
That in some ways, though, and I've people have done this in the past. I feel it's kind of to give yourself a deadline makes you do things sometimes you wouldn't necessarily want to do. Is that going to bother you, or because I think before you were quite relaxed about when you finished?
Yeah, I still am not like putting any pressure on myself. If I don't finish, I don't finish. It's not a big deal.
Right.
But I had already had another little mental timeline because a friend of mine is putting together a Kilimanjaro trip in October. So I was thinking, I would really like to go on that. That means I need to be back into Arizona by, end of September.
Right.
To do that. So
it's funny actually how life changes and allows you to make those changes yourself. So has it changed your preparation, or was your preparation all pretty much everything was dialed in?
No, my prep's pretty much all dialed in. Other than the fact that I'm not going to bring any extra gear or anything because I'm flying.
Cool.
So I'll leave all that at home. And I'm still, I got to tell you, I'm still vacillating. I'm bringing my barricade at least through the Smokies.
Right.
So that's, almost a little shy of 2 pounds without the food. And then I really, 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 really want my chair.
Oh, we should totally take your chair. Is that what they call it? I can't remember. Is it the Helos or something like that?
Yeah, it's a Helos.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a pound.
Yeah.
So I think, and it is an older, like it's been pretty beat up. So I think I'm going to bring that as well. And if I have to ditch it in a hiker box, I will.
Well, I remember years ago, when I went in 2014, members of the club I joined, because I'd never hiked before, and they did a shakedown of my pack before I left on the trail. And I had one of these Thermarest X-Lite air pads and a chair converter, so you could convert your air pad into a chair, which I love the idea of that. And it was the most ridiculous thing. They said, why do you take a chair? There's everywhere else to sit. But I tell you, sitting on a chair, a proper chair, there's nothing like it, is there?
I'm old, man. My back likes a chair. And when I get to camp, I want to sit down and pull my gear out and set up my tent from a seated position.
Yeah, quite right.
And so, yeah, I may hate myself for it, but I'm gonna suck it up and take probably both the barricade and the chair and.
So why are you taking barricade is a bear canister, isn't it?
Correct.
So why are you taking that, not bag?
I am taking that for two reasons. One, I don't ever want to be responsible for a bear losing its life. And two, I can't throw a bear line for shit. So
I know at the end of a day's hiking, it's never a good time to do it either, is it?
No, it's not. I think I'd rather just carry the less than 2 pounds and use it as a footstool with my chair. So I can remember one backpacking trip where everybody just sat and watched me for about 45 minutes trying to throw a damn line.
It's always a good sport. It's a good sport.
It's not my sport, that's for sure.
So you're starting to get excited about it now. You brought it up a bit, a few days or a couple of weeks, in fact, isn't it? About 2 or 3 weeks. How are you? Are you getting quite,
I'm getting really excited because I'm not even home now. I made all these decisions on the road. I'm in California, up in Davis, dog sitting, and then I'm headed to Pinnacles National Park for a couple days, some day hiking.
Right.
Have you been to Pinnacles?
No.
It's a really little tiny not well-known park that is known for the condors. And if you've never seen a condor up close, they are amazing.
You see a lot of them out there, do you?
Yeah, it's a restoration area for them. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And it's on the way home. So stop there for a couple of days. And when I get home, I'll be home for a week to get everything finalized. I have a couple packages here that I've been working on that my sister will send to me with shoes and 4 days resupply and stuff like that.
You struck me before when we spoke that you were very, I'm not sure if this is the right word, but competent in terms of you knew what you needed, you knew your stuff, you knew all your gear, and there were no real surprises for you. Is this an excitement that you always get when you go hiking, or is this an extra special one because it's a really long hike?
It is kind of an extra special one because it's not. It's the weather and the terrain are so different from what I'm used to.
Sure.
Everything out here is kind of dry or piney or canyony or something like that. And,
which is great, by the way, but yeah, it's different, definitely.
It is completely different. And I read somewhere somebody's like over their pack list, and they were talking about bringing extra rubber tips for their poles, and I'm like, I haven't had tips on my poles ever. I don't think. Just like the first time I used them, maybe they were on, and 3 miles up a canyon. The tips are through the rubber, so they're pointless. Yeah. So I was like, do people actually use those? I don't know.
I must admit I did, because some of the rocks, certainly in New Hampshire and Maine, were quite intense, and I always needed those. I always needed my poles, and they would slip on the rock, and I didn't like that at all. So having the rubber tips on did actually help. So it's they're kind of worth having, in my view, anyway.
Yeah, I honestly probably won't bring them because I've done the rock thing, and I've kind of adjusted to using just the carbide.
Yeah, I trusted just the tips without the rubber tips, and I fail badly when that happens. So just be aware of that.
I frequently, and again, I don't know, I will see what it is, but I frequently will just carry my poles and not actually put them down
right.
until I get to a steep incline or decline. Where I need that third point of contact.
Well, you get plenty of those, don't worry. You get plenty of steeps, especially the decline. Oh my gosh, going down some of those places. Oh my gosh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, gravity is not your friend.
Yeah. Well, look, before I go, I'm going, I say March the 10th. So before I go, it'll be about 10 days before you actually start. So we'll catch up again, and that will air sometime when I'm away. But good luck anyway. And if you move up any further, let me know.
I will. Hey, you have a great trip.
I appreciate it. Cheers, Joanne. Speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye. She has such a no-nonsense, matter-of-fact attitude. She's starting earlier and now has that target of an August grandchild. How wonderful for her. I don't know about you, but if I'd hiked 2,100 miles with just a few days left to complete this trip, I'm not sure a grandchild will be able to remove me from the trail. She says she's relaxed about it. I hope she makes it to both Katahdin and the birth of a grandchild, but that thought process will be swirling around in her mind as the miles pile up. Best of luck, Joanne. Now, I did say I was going to tell you all something before we heard from Sarah Landis, but I'm going to let Sarah share her news before I share the gift I received this week from a listener. Please stick around. I think you're going to get a really big kick out of it. So here, with her change of date, is Sarah Sunshine Landis. Well, we're back on with Sarah Sunshine Landis. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you're assimilating to life back from Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed a difference?
Yeah, it's scarier to walk by myself at night.
Oh, really? How interesting.
Yeah.
Really?
Korea's so safe, yeah.
Oh, Japan is. I used to go to Japan a lot, yeah. Mm-hmm. So do you miss it?
No, I'm really happy to be back. I'm glad to see all my friends and family again. I got to meet my niece for the first time. So
nice.
It's good to be back.
So now you've come back to see everybody. You're going to clear off again
yep.
shortly, in fact. And I've got in my schedule that you're off in early March. But you've just told me before I press record that you've changed that. So why the change?
I did a lot of traveling on my way back home from Korea. I stopped in Paris and Arizona and Washington.
You globetrotter. Hey, whoa, you can't just say that. So what was Paris like? I mean, I know it's like, so what was it like?
Oh, it was lovely. The whole point was, though, to just see, I haven't seen so many of my loved ones since March 2020. I've basically just been stuck without all my loved ones. So on my way to come home, I was like, I'm just going to see everyone. And one of my good friends is in Paris. So, of course, Paris is lovely, but it was really just to see my good friend. But en route, I got COVID. So I got back home to Maryland later than I thought I would. And I just really wanted to make sure that before I head out on the trail, I have like a lot of quality time with my friends and family. So I pushed it back just a little over 2 weeks. So instead of March 1st, I'll be going March 19th.
So what are you doing now? Are you just seeing people, or are you still dialing your gear in?
So I'm doing a lot of physical training, going to the gym a lot, seeing friends and family, and I'm trying to dial in my gear. I just slept in my tent and did my whole sleep system last night. It was
where'd you set it up?
Indoors? In my backyard.
Oh, right. You actually went outside. Yeah. Yeah. So did you find a flat spot in your backyard? Because that's the important thing on the trail, let me tell you.
Yeah, and I think I want to try and do at least one overnight. I have like 2 weeks left before I head out, so maybe try and find somewhere to go set up my tent out on a trail somewhere. Yeah,
so it's funny actually, when you're away from people for a long time, and funnily enough, I'm going back to the UK myself for 5 weeks, and I'm putting together a family lunch, and there are people I'm seeing I haven't seen for 40 years, which is just bizarre to me. And I know that when I get there, that's the thing I'm probably looking forward to as much as anything. So seeing your family, does it make you not want to go, or are you still determined to go?
I'm definitely still determined to go.
So you don't love them that much then.
Well, I'm used to being gone. And it's just, I don't know, I was home for a couple months when the pandemic first hit, and I'm just like, I know I can't stay here too long, Yeah.
And what your friends in Korea, I presume, did you work with Korean people?
I did. Yeah, I worked with Korean people and foreigners from all over.
And did you tell them about the Appalachian Trail? What was their reaction? What was their reaction? A lot of people, unless they were American, a lot of people that I worked with, Korean, Canadian, so on and so forth, they didn't really even know about it. And when I told them I was going to go on a hiking trip, they kind of assumed like maximum 2 weeks. And when I was like, no, like it's like over 2,000 miles, it's going to take many months. Like their minds are kind of just like, what? So it was really interesting telling people my plans. It's funny, actually, when I went on the Camino in 2018, Koreans were probably the most represented nation out there. So it was, they do like to hike. There's no question about that. Oh, for sure. Yeah. So those early days, it's going to be, it's still going to be quite cold out there. What are you taking? How much do you think your pack's going to be when you go out there, when you start? I haven't weighed my pack with like food or water or anything. And I think it's just about 20 pounds. So it's not too heavy, but I think I'm going to panic pack some warm gear. I really don't want to be cold. You pack your fears. What's your sleeping setup? I have like a pad and a liner and a pretty decent bag, I think a 20-degree bag. Oh, that should be right, yeah. So I think I'll be fine, but... I've had 7 degrees in the Smokies, by the way, overnight. Yeah. In April. So just be aware of that. There's also still a possibility, And have you... I mean, I know you're Sarah Sunshine. That's you're actually in my contacts as Sarah Sunshine, not even Landis. So are you going for Sunshine? If people ask you your name, or are you going to let people name you? I do really love being called Sunshine, but if someone has something better, I will absolutely take it. Especially trail names have a fun story. Sunshine doesn't really have one. So, how did you get it, by the way? I don't even remember. It was just from early high school, and it just kind of stuck. Right. It's been over a decade, but. So do you think you're ready now? You're ready to go? I mean, you're physically ready to go. I'm physically ready. Right. I feel like and mentally you're not, though, because you want to see your family. Yeah. I'm really just trying to live each day and spend time with the people I'm spending time with and not think about other things. But I feel like once
once I get there, then I'll be ready.
Yeah, you're obviously a focused individual. The fact you can go abroad and go and live abroad and fit in there and get on well over there. Are people going to come and visit you at all? Or are you leaving people who are not going to come?
I don't, like on the trail?
Oh, yeah, a lot of people do.
No, I don't.
Slows you down totally, by the way.
I don't think
how anybody
so.
does it, I don't know.
I am planning on leaving the trail at least once because my best friend's getting married. So I'm going to take probably about 5 to 7 days off in May to go to a wedding. But as of right now, that's kind of the only solid plan I have to see people while I'm on the trail.
I think you're going to feel really strange when you do that, because you'll got used to being filthy, being in the woods and so on. To clean yourself up,
and get my makeup done and my hair done. It's going to be wild.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, look, we're going to speak one more time before I go away myself. I'm glad you're still going. I'm glad you didn't change your mind, because I always thought that was a possibility when you came back that you might change your mind.
No way.
But only because your environment certainly changes you, and you can see things differently when you come back. And I thought there was always the possibility of that, but I'm glad to see you're still going to be out there. But we'll speak before I go away, and keep preparing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Take it easy then.
All right. Bye.
Bye. She is such a together young woman, isn't she? I think she bristled a bit when I wonder whether she might not go after seeing friends and family. And let's face it, if you can uproot yourself, go to the other side of the world and work in a foreign language, well, you're obviously made of sterner stuff than most of us. Of course she's going to do it. Sorry to have doubted you, Sarah. Now, I got an email from a guy last July. His name's Andy Alexander. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this, in essence, is what he wrote. He said, I've been kicking around this idea since I heard you climbing Katahdin. He went on, your story in music is the broad idea. And he finished the paragraph with, the Ballad of Mighty Blue on the AT. So that's how it started. I was flattered, of course, but not able to contribute anything musically. I just waited, and a few days ago, Andy wrote back and sent me the Ballad of Mighty Blue. He told me that he'd had a few setbacks, but a few weeks ago he had an idea, and he followed through with that. And interestingly, he wanted to narrate the music for me. It's currently an instrumental, and I'm going to be playing the show out with his composition, so please hang around for that. But when you listen, this is what Andy is conveying through the music. He writes, the intro is rather different than the song. Intention was to represent the unanticipated direction of change of life as someone attempts a thru-hike. Next is sort of a call to all prospective thru-hikers to Springer for the hiking season. Climbing in intensity brings the anxiety of those first uncertain steps up and down the mountains as small successes accumulate. We step into the feature of the Mighty Blue theme song acknowledgement, a hook of the song, a return often to this home feeling of recognition. We begin to establish a rhythm. Hopefully the music brings feelings of views of grand vistas and those pointless ups and downs. Fear, happiness, challenges are represented as the tensions rise and fall in the music path here. It's a long walk, but we're making it. Almost there. Maybe Katahdin. Near the end, the music brings unexpected complexity, just as the complicated thoughts of actually finishing the hike. The fear and challenge of climbing that final mountain. Reach the top, drum roll of sorts. Then, at that iconic sign, a momentary pause and a simple return home. I've got to tell you, Andy, I listened with your words in front of me, and you really nailed it. Those of us who have done this will recognise many of those points, and, well, when I heard the Mighty Blue hook, well, what a delight. I kept rewinding it, or, just moving back in it a bit. Oh, it's so lovely to hear. Thanks, my friend. You've done something that I never imagined this podcast would earn me. I'll see you next week.